Mr. Baldassarre.
Thank you, and good evening. It's really wonderful to see nearly a full house here tonight. Just so delighted. Please come make yourself comfortable. Thank you. Before we begin this evening, I wanted to just try to give you a little bit more insight into the competition. And I think the best way to do that is to look at 4 basic questions. The first of which is, what is the ultimate goal of this competition? Well, in a word, it's about connectedness. This competition is designed to reward the practice of becoming purposeful, about seeking meaningful connections. And we're using the power of composing music as a tool to encourage this practice. Now, why is it important to encourage connections? Well, there's 2 reasons. One's for the individual, and the other's for the music. Now, for the individual, there's a growing body of research that has linked social ties with longevity, lower stress levels, and improved overall well-being. One of the oldest studies is the Harvard Grant Study, which began back in the late 1930s and is still following some of the same subjects today who are in their 90s. And the study has found that the strong connections are far and away the best predictor of career satisfaction and life fulfillment. Now, as far as the music goes, our thesis is that if music is conceived with the intent to connect its composer to the listener, the result will not only contribute to a sense of fulfillment in both, but it'll also increase the likelihood of leaving behind a lasting musical impression and maybe even an imperishable musical masterpiece. Now, where do these connections come from, you might ask? Well, for starters, we have a common physical heritage that spans the molecular, like our DNA, to the astronomical, like the star stuff, which scientist Carl Sagan called the fundamental elements of the universe from which everything is made. But there's also a common musical heritage that we all share. The first pitch we heard was the tone of our mother's voice in the womb. And the first pulse that we ever danced to was the beat of our mother's heart. So by our very nature, we're wired for song and dance. And following from these good vibrations are fundamental linkages like the parent and child, the husband and wife, the brother and sister, friends, young lovers. There are connections that are emotional and physical. There are commercial connections, merchants and customers, goods and services. There's connections between behaviors and rewards, teacher and student, composer-performer, and composer and audience. And all of these relationships inhabit a social ecosystem and its subsystems. And the composer has its own ecosystem, which includes themselves, their culture, the listener, the audience, the community, the customer. And like all ecosystems, the very survival of its inhabitants relies on the symbiotic relationship of its members. So if the linkage between the composer and the audience isn't nourished and cultivated, then the ecosystem will break down. Leonard Bernstein, the great conductor-composer of the last century, called this breakdown the composer versus public attitude. Emphasis on versus. Well, this competition stresses the mutually dependent ecosystem of the composer and the public. Now the final question. How does the composer connect to their audience? The answer to that is simply beyond our grasp, because that is the nature of art. But the formula probably includes a couple of ingredients, one being forethought and the other being touch. Now, having forethought in this case means being mindful of the listener from the very outset. For example, if you want to give a truly memorable gift, you choose the gift with the recipient in mind. And if you really want to leave a lasting impression, make a gift with your own hands, from your own heart, with the complete forethought of the recipient in mind, and then you'll have something really special. Now, the second ingredient is found in the 2 touches of music, the emotional and the physical. Like all arts, music can touch our emotions and make us feel glad, sad, mad, fearful, etc. But only music can physically touch you. You hear my voice because I'm literally pressing on your eardrum. You hear me because I'm touching you. So when you combine this physical with the emotional, you have, in another word, intimacy. And music is one of the highest forms of intimacy in the human experience, and that's why music composition is a great medium to teach about connections. So whether or not these young composer performers tonight go on to be musicians, bankers, teachers, pilots, doesn't really matter at all. Because in the end, if they can take away from this experience a better understanding of the power of connections in their lives, then maybe we've given them a gift by illuminating the path toward fulfillment. And maybe, just maybe, along the way, they'll create an imperishable musical masterpiece for the ages. Thank you.